Namaste, everyone. So in sitting, find a comfortable place for your hands to relax, your shoulders to release away from the ears, and eyes gently close or soft gaze down at the floor. And welcome to today's class, which is going to be an introduction to our Sun Salutation sequence that we're going to use for the next 6 weeks. And many of you will have done a Sun Salutation before. There's lots of different variations. This is a gentle one that we can always add to and build on, but it's a nice one to do for a gentle warm up in the morning or evening class. So take a nice big breath in and out. Think about how lucky we are at the moment to have some sun, and may it continue throughout the summer. And sunshine in our lives, even if the sun isn't shining. So bring your hands together, take a nice deep breath in, and bow your head. Namaste. So I want you to gently come up to standing. So take your time. Never come up too quickly. And we're going to come into mountain pose and take a moment here, either again with your eyes closed or softly focused down at the floor at nothing much in particular. Feel really grounded. Think about the contact of our feet on the floor, feet hip width apart, the most stable way to stand. If you want to, the feet can be together for Sun Salutations, but this gives you that extra stability. Think about having a little micro bend behind the knees and yet reaching up through the crown of the head so the body feels tall. Roll the shoulders back. Think about lifting and opening the heart, as well as tucking the tailbone slightly under so it's nice and long. And take some deep breaths in and out here. So our intention for today's practice is to bring sunshine into our lives. I want you to take your hands in front of your heart in Anjali Mudra. I'm going to warm up the shoulders with some arm raises. Inhale, lifting the arms out to the side and up. Exhale, bring the hands down the center. And again, inhale, reaching up. Exhale, down the center. One more time like that. And the next time that we inhale, we're going to bow forward. So inhale, reaching up, looking up if your neck is good. And then as the hands come down the center, let yourself hinge at the hips and come into a forward fold, dropping down, letting the hands dangle, waving at the floor or maybe fingertips touching the floor. And keep a bend in the knees to start with. So press down again into those feet and let the body feel stable. In this inversion, let it get used to being upside down. If you want to keep the head level with the heart when we work in our forward bends, then you don't need to bend fully down. Otherwise, really let the neck go, let the head release down, crown of the head is towards the floor. And then let's work into our hamstrings and the muscles at the back of our legs. So bring the hands onto the shins or thighs and come up a little higher. So reach through the crown of your head, nice big inhale. Exhale, fold forward, lift the hips, drop the head. You might feel a stretch down the back of the legs, and then repeat that. So coming up on the inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, bowing down. And softening the knees straight away if you want to. So I suggest you bend the knees on the inhale, straighten the legs on the exhale. One more bow. So inhale, exhale into your bow. And then I want you to take a stride back with your right leg. nice long stride to come into a runner's lunge. And we want the front knee ideally over the ankle. And let's spend a few breaths here. So in our Sun Salutation, it's just one breath that we take in our lunge. But we can be up on our fingertips here. We can lift the heart forward, the gaze forward a little. If it's hard work being up in the air in this higher lunge, drop the back knee down. It softens the posture, but you can still get plenty of work. So think that crown of the head reaches forward, and either the back knee, if it's on the floor, is stretching in the opposite direction, or reach out through the back heel. Find that length, and then drop the hips down a little more for a stretch in the hips and thighs. Good. We're going to do that on the other side before we go anywhere else. So push off with that right foot. Step forward into your forward fold again. Feet hip width apart. Try and keep them that distance. And then stride back on the left foot. See if that feels any different. Again, find that length, either from the crown of the head to the heel, or crown of the head to that knee if it's dropped down onto the floor. And try and think shoulders are broad and wide. The heart comes forward in our lunge pose. The hips drop down. Good. Breathe into that work. And then pushing down into your hands. This time let the palms come onto the floor. We're going to step back to downward facing dog, but we're not staying there yet, and drop to our knees. So you should end up in tabletop pose. Maybe the hands are slightly in front of the shoulders. We're going to work in cat and cow pose first of all. So bring the shoulders over the wrists and make sure that the hips are over the knees. So nice square tabletop. Inhale with a long back, and then exhale, round the spine, drop the head. Inhale, tilt the hips forward, tummy towards the floor, lift the heart, lift the head forward a little. Exhale, start the movement at the hips, tuck the tailbone under, round the spine up to the ceiling, drop the head last. So keep this going, flexing the back one way and then the other, trying to start at the hips, finish at the head. So there's this wave along the spine. If we do this slowly and mindfully here, when we're moving through the different postures, this will become automatic to move up the spine with these movements. Good. And then next time you're exhaling, as you round your back, start taking the hips back towards the heels for child pose. We're going to keep the arms outstretched in front of us today. So the forehead might come down to the floor, it might hover above. The hips might draw back to the heels, they might not get that far. And see if you can soften and round the back a little in our child pose. Across the top of the shoulders, as well as from the nape of the neck right down to the tailbone. Maybe the head dropping forward and resting on the floor as well. And from here, in our Sun Salutation that we're going to do, we're going to move into Cobra. So I want to try a couple of different movements to do this. First way is to reach the palms forward, press into the hands, and rise up to tabletop pose. So you rise up and then drop the hips forward. And then if you want to come down onto the floor from there, you bend the elbows back rather than out to the side, bend them back and lower the heart down and your torso down to the floor. Okay, so Cobra could be a really low Cobra, or you could come up quite high, but I want you to practice a few times how it feels. So hands under the shoulders, lift the heart up and forwards, and try and keep the neck in line with the spine. So if you come up really high and you've got a very bendy back, you might be looking up to the ceiling. If your back is much straighter and you're coming up low, you're looking forward. Don't worry about cranking the neck back. That's not what this posture is about. And different ways to make that lumbar spine more relaxed. You might try turning your toes towards each other. You might try engaging the tummy and the glutes a little more. You might spread your toes wider. Some people find that helps the idea of keeping their lower back relaxed and the upper back doing the work. Okay, and I just want to try one more thing with you. So we're going to lift up into Cobra, ease yourself all the way back to child, and take a rest there. Let your back have a rest. Feel that this is reversing that direction. Cobra is a back bend, so this is a nice gentle forward bend. And then another way to come through to Cobra, which I think is stronger on the arms, so it depends what's right for you, is to plant the palms down, keep the nose down near the floor, and imagine you're rolling a marble along the floor with your nose. So you're kind of slithering forward, keeping low. I can feel that on my upper arms more. And then you rise up. So you come up from the floor into Cobra. So maybe over the next couple of rounds of Sun Salutation, have a little practice with that. To make sure we're working in the upper back, I want you to lower yourself down onto the floor, hover the hands off, and take 3 breaths, rising up without any effort from the hands. That might be tiny Cobra here, up and down. Doesn't matter how much you're coming off the floor. When you take your hands lightly back down onto the mat and try 1 more or 2 more Cobra poses, you might find you come up a bit higher because the back thinks, aha, okay, I know which muscles to engage now to lift up. And then slowly push yourself back to kneeling. Just round the back in a nice cat stretch. Release that Cobra from our body. And when you come back from a Cobra pose, you can stay in kneeling if you want to. I'm going to call it that it goes from Cobra to downward facing dog, but we can go through tabletop, and if you want, you stay there. Otherwise, hands should be in front of the shoulders now a little bit. Tuck your toes and lift the hips. Keep the knees bent. And we're going to work in downward dog for quite a while, a few breaths. So if you want to come down to kneeling at any time, you do that. I want you to think about the hands spread, the fingers pressing down, these sit bones pointing up to the sky. So get the bottom of the hips pointing up to the corner of the room where the ceiling meets the wall. And then once you feel your back is really long, by pushing the mat away from you, lengthening the spine, then you can start easing into the back of the legs by taking the heels down towards the floor. And just notice how the back is. If you start rounding the back, bend those knees. Get the bend in the knees allows a lovely straight back. And you've got the option, when we stay in down dog like this, to come to kneeling, walk the hands forward and do puppy dog instead. Okay, so taking a rest in kneeling if you want to, circling the wrists, wriggling the hands. Decide whether you want to walk the hands forward for puppy dog or come back into downward dog, and we're going to walk the legs out. So one foot is stretched away, the other knee is bent, and then we swap over. If you're in puppy dog, you're taking one foot out, tucking the toes, stretching through the heel. And do that a couple of times on each side. And then I want everybody to come to kneeling or sitting and just watch a little while I talk about the next stage, because the trickiest part in a sun salutation, especially if you're flowing through it and you're doing it quickly, I think, is stepping forward from downward dog to back into our lunge, because we then reverse the postures and we come up to standing. So it should look something like this. You go from downward facing dog, and the next part is to place the foot in front of the hands. but it doesn't always get there. It doesn't always get between the hands, okay? So what sometimes happens is the foot gets to here, and the next posture is a forward fold. So you might be halfway down your mat when you do that, which is okay as a one-off, but when you're doing it repetitively, you're going to end up at the end of your mat after you've done a few rounds. So here's some tips and tricks to get from your downward dog position into your lunge. So you can do it from kneeling. Like I said, you don't have to come to downward dog at all, but if you did go into down dog, you could come to kneeling and you can lift a foot forward, absolutely fine. And equally, if you find you step forward and you only get part of the way, you've got that option, drop the back knee, lift or shuffle the foot forward, and then you're ready to go. If you want to do the full stepping over and through, there are a few things we can do to help that, okay? It all depends on the hip flexors, the shape of your body, the length, the dimensions, the ratios. So don't worry if it's not for you, but we're just going to warm up those hip flexors together and give it a go. So come onto all fours and stretch out the right leg behind you. This is kneeling at the moment. Stretch the right foot out, toes pointed towards the floor, and think about the heel and the crown of the head reaching in opposite directions for a nice big inhale. And we're going to do a tiger curl. So on the exhale, draw the knee forwards and look towards the knee. And then take it back again. And then look towards the knee. And then I want you to do it on the other side. So we're then taking the left foot back and drawing the knee up underneath. And we're engaging the tummy muscles, the core muscles around the side waist, the hips, the glutes, so that we're getting this nice curved back and practicing getting space under the body. If you just want to watch again for a moment, from downward facing dog, I am not going to get my foot forward between the hands if I stay with my hips back here and my arms straight, okay? I just can't. I can't physically get my foot forward. So I have to think my whole body has to come forward. So if I want to step my right foot forward, I take a little spring, bend my knees, I push off with the other foot. So I'm going to push off with this left foot, and I lift my whole body forward. So my shoulders are now over the wrists, my head has gone forward, and then I try and make space. I parachute up my back and bring that knee forward like we were just practicing, so that there stands a chance of my foot getting further forward. Okay, so we're going to give that a go with all those options. If you want to drop to your knees and step or shuffle the foot forward, you can. If you get halfway and you think, okay, that'll do for my forward fold, you can take a sneaky step forward. Lots and lots of options. So let's start from tabletop pose on all fours. We're going to tuck the toes, lift up into our downward facing dog. If your neck is good, you can look towards the hands and think that is where my right foot is going to end up. I want you to bend your knees, draw the hips back, and as best you can, send that knee forward and your shoulders forward. Swing the leg through. Wherever it lands, it lands. Maybe drop the back knee, shuffle the foot forwards. We're all going to end up in a runner's lunge, and then we would step forward. We're not going to step forward just yet. We're going to try that on the other side. So come back and come to kneeling. Okay. And then tuck your toes, lift up into downward dog. Remember, you can stay kneeling if you want to. And a little spring in the step. Think that left foot is going to go forward. Is. And then think, how much space can I make? Like you're stepping over a big beach ball, swinging that left foot forward into a runner's lunge, whether it's dropped back knee, whether you've got the knee up in the air. And then you'll be glad to know we stepped forward into our forward fold. Keep the knees bent, keep the head dangling, keep everything soft today. It's a nice, gentle sun salutation version. And then your choice how you rise up. First of all, we're going to roll up. So feet hip width apart, press into the ground, use the leg muscles. Roll up, slowly rolling the shoulders down and back. Coming back into your mountain pose. Today, because it's the sun salutation, we're going to finish lifting the hands and bringing them back to the heart. Okay, that is the end of our sun salutation. Now, when I say roll up, because it's a gentler option, that doesn't apply if you've got any disc issues going on. So if you know that there's things happening in your back and rolling up is going to aggravate it, a stronger version, but a safer version if you've got back issues, is to keep a flatter back. Now, to come up from a forward fold with straight legs is incredibly strong on the lower back. So I don't want you to do that. What I really like to see is people bend their knees, because then it's all the legs doing the work, and you can use your hands to encourage yourself to float up. So I've got a flat back, a flat back, a flat back. I'm rising up using the power of my legs, and then bringing your hands to your heart. And I don't mind if you do a combination of those two. So you rise up however you want to, but we're all finished together. So now we're going to go through it slowly on each side, and we'll speed things up as the 6 weeks go on. So come to the front of your mat, feet hip width apart, hands in front of the heart, ready to salute the sun. We're going to inhale as we reach the arms up, stretching up, hands together, and exhale as we bow down, touching the floor. And then with our fingertips on the floor, we're going to stride back with our right foot into a lunge. So left knee staying over the left ankle, and then push your hands into the mat and step the left foot back to join it. So you're in downward facing dog, and you can come straight to kneeling if you want to. The next bit, we're all going to come down onto our knees. We're going to lift the head, lift the tailbone. We've got this arch in the back, so this cow pose. And then round the spine. As you breathe out, take the hips back, and we're going to child pose, where you can rest if you want to. If you're in the middle of 108 sun salutations, and yes, we might do that one day, not this term, but maybe for fun one day. It's quite nice to rest in child pose and let the other half of the sun salutation happen, and then catch up on the way back again. So this is your resting pose. Now think about how you're going to come into cobra. You reach the fingertips forward. You can slither along the ground, hard on the arms, or you rise up, drop the hips through, but bend the elbows back. Keep the elbows close to the body, not sticking out to the side. So that's your cobra pose. Slide the shoulder blades down the back and look forward. Think, bring the heart forward. Then slowly start rounding your back. Take it back again. You're going through kneeling. You can stay in kneeling if you choose. Otherwise, you're tucking your toes, coming all the way back to downward facing dog. And here's the challenge. So look between your hands, tell yourself that's where my right foot is going to go. Bend your knees, get that little spring in your step, push off with your left foot as best you can, step your right foot forward, do that little shuffle, drop your knee, whatever you want to do. And then we step forward into our forward fold. So feet are parallel, hip width apart, press down into the ground. And from your forward fold, you rise all the way up to standing, lifting the arms at the top, bringing the hands down to the heart to finish. Okay, that's half a round. So we stepped back and forward with the right foot. Now we're going to step back and forward with the left foot. Inhale, let's reach up. Here we go again. Exhale, bowing down. Bend the knees enough for the fingertips to come to the floor. Let the head go if that feels okay for you. Step back on the left foot this time. Drop the knee if you prefer. Otherwise, you're in this high runner's lunge, keeping the right knee over the right ankle so it's nice and secure. And then drop the palms to the floor. Press into the ground step that left foot back, sorry, the right foot back to join the left, and you're in downward facing dog. You can come straight to kneeling. Everyone joins together in kneeling and then lifts the heart, lifts the tailbone for cow pose. Round the back. Exhale into your child pose. Child pose, you can widen the knees if that feels nice, make room for your tummy, or you could keep the thighs parallel to each other. Head might touch the ground, it might be hovering above it. And then into cobra. So we come forward, inhaling as we go. It can be a low cobra or high up. And then straight away, round the back, and we're coming back to kneeling and maybe continuing to downward facing dog. Well done, nearly there. Little spring in the step, bend those knees, look forward. Left foot is going to come forward into lunge and land light as a feather. I can't hear you over the internet, so we'll assume that's nice and dainty. And then step forward into your forward fold, bow down, press into the ground, lift the arms up as you rise up. Think of the sun above you, palms come together, and you bring them to the heart to finish. Good stuff. Let's leave it there for today. Take your hands down by your side, palms forward, roll the shoulders back, draw the shoulder blades down. Okay, that was slow paced, but you might still feel the heart has sped up, the breathing maybe it's got going, maybe you feel hotter, it generates heat in the body. And once you get into a rhythm of it, one posture for one inhale, one posture for one exhale, it can be quite meditative. So that's the sequence we're going to use as a warm-up over the next few weeks, and then we'll play with the other half of the class. So if you want to close your eyes or just that soft focus down at the floor, come inward a moment and see if there's any sensations there to be noticed. Sometimes I feel taller after I've done some sun salutations, or there might be tingling in your fingers and legs as the energy is churned up and moved around. But don't worry if you're not feeling any of that. Everyone's different and every day is different. Lovely. So the only thing that the sun salutation sequence doesn't do is a side bend and a twist. So we'll make sure that we include that in the second half of our practice. So I want you to take your right foot behind your left foot. It might go off the yoga mat a bit, that's fine. Make sure that you're still feeling balanced. And we're going to take a side stretch. Inhale, sweep the arms up and clasp hold of your right wrist with your left hand above the head. So we're inhaling there and we exhale over to the side. So we get this lovely C curve down the body. Press into the right foot and reach up through the right fingertips and breathe into the right side of the body. Try and make this top arm over the top ear as best you can. And your left ear is dropping towards the floor. And taking breaths in and out on the exhale, really trying to see how far that C curve can go for you today without straining. We're going to rise up. Exhale as we bring the feet and the arms back to the center, ready to do the other side. Always noticing how does one side feel to the other before we swap. So take the left foot behind the right. Inhale the arms up, and this time you're taking hold of the left wrist with the right arm and exhaling over to the other side. Letting the hips sway out. And a few breaths, exploring that. Oh, we like it when pets join in as well. That's great. Good, and then rise up on an inhale. Exhale, back to the center. Good. And let's test out how our balance is today. You're always welcome to come to a wall or have a chair handy. If you want to have something to rest against, get it near to your left hand, so either wall on the left-hand side or a chair. And we're going to balance on the left leg for tree pose, so our classic postures today. take the right toes and bring them near to the left foot. Really try and spread out into those left toes, and a little micro bend in the standing legs, so not locking it really straight and stiff. And your hands could either be down by the side, they could be at the heart. Some people have their hands on the hips. And more challenging is to bring them up higher. So let's see where we want to start. You can always lift them halfway through. And when you're ready, take a fixed gaze at something that's not moving. So probably something above the screen, not me, because I might wobble. And then lift your right foot onto your left leg. I don't mind whether it's down on the calf or you want to catch hold of the hand and bring it into the thigh, but not on the knee joint. So above or below the knee. And it wants to be somewhere it can stay comfortably rather than you thinking it's going to slide down the leg any minute. And then you breathe. So within the effort and the work in the lower leg, we try to find some relaxation in the upper body. So shoulders are relaxed, the jaw is unclenched, the tongue is not stuck to the roof of the mouth. So see if you can smile whilst you're balancing. Always a good test. Yeah, that's normally when everyone goes. Keep the breath slow and deep and smooth if you can. 2 more big breaths. Lovely. And then we'll try and dismount in a dignified way if possible, bringing the foot down to the floor, bringing the arms down by your side, and taking a moment to thank that left leg, which probably now is feeling the work, and then shifting the weight slowly into our right leg. Again, spreading out the toes. If you want to be near a wall with the right hand to reach out to something, absolutely fine. Take the left toes to a little balance to start with. Set yourself up. It gets the body used to the idea that the weight is going now into one leg. That drishti, that focal point, will help your concentration, and maybe explore a different position for the hands if you want to. When you're ready, lifting the foot onto the leg. We're trying to take the knee out to the side. So if it can go out to the side here, but when you bring it up higher, it tends to come forward, it means that your hip flexors aren't quite ready for that yet. They're a bit tight still. And that's only going to change over time. If your bones are set in a certain way, it's never going to change. So accept what's there for you today. And then breathe into it. See if you can root down through the feet. So if the toes are really clenched and scrunched up, can you gently encourage them to spread out as though you're sending roots out like a tree? It spreads those roots outwards. And from there, from the ground, it lifts up. So a little lift in the crown of the head without locking that standing knee. Really good, everybody. Exploring what helps you. Does it help to have the hands into the center, out to the sides? Maybe lift them up for the last couple of breaths, only if you want to. It could be out, spreading like branches. It could be a pointed palm tree, a pine tree. And then exhaling, coming down to the floor. And relax. Feel that release as the legs can share the weight again. And then take a turn to your left, so to the long side of your mat, and take a nice wide stride. Edges of the feet, the outside edges of the feet are parallel to start with. So toes pointing to that wide edge. And then we're going to deliberately turn the right toes to the front of your mat and take the left heel back at a little bit of an angle. And this is ready for our warrior postures. So that front heel is either in line with the arch of the back foot, or if that feels a bit wobbly, then take the front foot out to the side and it's more heel to heel lined up. Okay, and as best you can, the hips stay facing the long edge of the mat for this warrior 2 that we're going to do. So we lift the arms up to shoulder height, look down that right arm, right middle finger, and inhale there. As you exhale, you bend the front knee, And this is warrior two. So this is a strong standing posture. You press down into the feet, especially the outside edge of that back foot. You take a little look. Where is my back hand? Sometimes it goes for a wander all over the place. If it's okay on your shoulders, you keep them outstretched, both arms. If that's aching, then you take the hands to the hips, but the gaze stays steady as though you're looking down that middle fingernail on that right hand and beyond, dissolving obstacles. Relax the shoulders, keep breathing. And we're going to change from warrior two into triangle pose. We're going to do that by inhaling and straightening the front leg. Deliberately dip the hips. So take that left hip back. It's going to help with the forward fold. And then reach forward as far as you can. And then let that right hand come down. It can land anywhere on the leg. It might touch the floor. And then this left arm, take it to the hip to start with. Unless you're confident and you've done this loads of times before, take it to the hip and then roll the top shoulder back. The idea is to open up the front of the body as if you had a pane of glass behind you and you were trying to lean against that pane of glass with as much of the body as you can. And the gaze could be down at the floor, it could be sideways, it could be up in the air. And if you want to, you lift the top hand up. And the idea of triangle pose, Trikonasana, is expansion. Okay, so maybe on the inhale, you soften off the front knee, bend the top elbow or relax the head. And on the inhale, you grow. You press into the floor with the feet. You lift up through the torso, out through the crown of the head and out through the arms, whether that's the elbow or the tips of the fingers at the top. Try not to slump all your weight into that bottom leg. So you could almost have the hand not touching. And then we're going to come out. Bend the front knee, find warrior two again, and feel strong, like you've just fought a battle. You're coming back into your warrior pose, having accomplished your aim. And we're going to change to the back end of our mat with a cross of the wrists today. So I want you to cross the wrists in front of the hips, let the toes turn, so they're coming back to the long edge of your mat, big circle with the arms, and then let the left toes turn to the back of your mat and come into warrior two on the other side. So you're now pointing towards the back of your mat. You've got to adjust that back foot so it's at a good angle. You feel nice and stable. You're looking down your left arm, the left fingernail of the middle finger, unless you choose to do the sassy version with the hands on the hips. And see if you can sink those hips down a little lower. Maybe you need to shuffle the feet wider apart to do that. Is the knee over the ankle? Is it massively reaching over the toes? Draw yourself back if it is. So we want head, shoulders, hips, all in one line. Proud chest, proud warrior. Probably feeling it in your arms and legs by now. I'm going to change it into triangle. Inhale, straighten the front leg. Exhale, bend forward, let that hip relax back, reach forward and then down. Just float the hand down. Top hand comes to the hip unless you're keen to get it up in the air. Roll that top shoulder back as best you can and choose your gaze. Okay, I find that looking up is harder on the balance. Looking down is more grounding. Your neck might prefer one thing to the other. And then think about the expansion, like a star glowing. Relax it a little on the exhale, and then really brighten the posture on the inhale. Everything's alive. The fingertips are alive, so that you're not slumping in a relaxed pose. This is a working pose with the breath. Inhale, exhale. Really nice. Ready to bend that front knee. We're going to rise up, warrior two, one last time. And I want that feeling of yes inside. Inner strength, inner confidence comes from this posture. We're going to come out with the cross of the wrists again, crossing them in front, of the hips, nice big circle, turn the toes to the side, keep the toes at the side this time, pointing towards the long edge, and the hands land down on the hips, still with the feet wide, take a breath. We're going to bow into a wide-legged forward fold. So always in yoga, we try and hinge from the hips rather than bending from the tummy. If you take your middle finger and your index finger and place it at the top of your hips where you feel that crease, we're going to bend from there. So nice big breath in. Exhale, keep the back long as you hinge forward, just halfway to start with. Don't come all the way down. And then decide if you want to heel toe the feet wider apart or further in. You can always adjust that again in a minute. Find length in the crown of your head and bend the knees just a little bit. And then next time you exhale, continue bowing down into your forward fold. Let the hands now relax. They might touch the ground. They might just wave at it. A little bend in one knee and then bend in the other. Get some movement in those hips. Let the head go. Again, unless you've got any issues with blood pressure, with your eyes not liking it, then you can stay up a little higher in our half forward fold. But if all is good, see how it feels to let the back of the head relax down, long neck, and the crown of the head gets a little closer to the floor with every exhale. You can continue the bending of the knees like we did before, bending and then straightening the legs. There's often a nice way to get you a little deeper into this posture. If the hands touch the ground, then they might start walking back between the feet, and you might be able to take the feet wider and place the head on the floor. Maybe that's a distant aim for another day or another lifetime. Doesn't matter. We're working the back of the body and feeling the soothing, calming effects of having the head lower than the heart. So a couple more breaths here, maybe bringing the posture into complete stillness for the last one, bowing down. And then slowly walk the hands around to the front of the mat. Let the toes turn with you. And step back into either down dog for a couple of breaths or come straight to kneeling. That's where we're all going to end up in a minute. If you're in downward facing dog, maybe it's nice to walk the legs out with a little bend of the knees. And then dropping down to kneeling and back to child pose. Hips coming back towards the heels. Head softening down towards the mat. You can always use a block if it doesn't get to the mat, or bring the hands under the forehead this time. Nice, deep, slow breaths here. Really exaggerate the exhale if that feels good. So in yoga, we usually breathe in and out through the nose, if that's okay. But when we take pauses like this, it's sometimes nice to exhale out through the mouth. Sighing out that exhale, letting the muscles relax. Good stuff. And gently pressing yourself up to kneeling. Swing the legs round in front of you. If you find it tricky to keep a nice straight back and or find it hard to straighten out the legs, this is a great opportunity to get a cushion or a block under the hips, because this helps with the angle between everything. It eases off the back of the body a little. So we're going to try Dandasana, our staff pose, where we reach the heels away from the hips and the crown of the head away from the sit bones. So we're trying for this lovely right angle in the body as best you can. You take your fingertips down next to your hips or maybe even behind, and lift the heart, lift up through the crown of the head. The chin is tucked a little. We're not reaching the chin up to the sky. So this is quite a firm position. I want you to see if you can stay within the shape of the posture, keep the integrity of the pose, but soften inwardly. So think about, can I relax my shoulders just a little? Can I unclench the teeth? Although the toes are pointing up to the ceiling, can I just feel a little softness in the soles of my feet. So the whole aim of yoga is to be alert but at ease. In every posture, we try and find that moment of bliss, that moment of ease within the shape. And we'll do our twist to finish off. So we're going to do a half Lord of the Fishes pose, Ardha Matsyendrasana, and you can take this to the extreme, or it can be a very gentle pose. So we're going to build up. First of all, I want you to take your right foot over the left knee and place the right foot on the ground. And immediately, if you think it feels tight and uncomfortable, keep the foot inside the knee instead of outside the knee. We're going to turn in a minute towards the bent knee. Okay, lots of options. You don't have to hoik the body all the way round. So let's link the fingers in front of the shins, and this helps draw the spine up nice and tall. Whenever we twist, we want to get length in the spine first. So nice tall spine, and then your where are we going? Your right hand is going down beside the hip. Okay, just supporting you on the ground. And then I like to lift the left arm up to remind me to keep that length in the side of my body. And then you wrap the arm around the leg. That might involve bringing the hand to the shin. You might get the knee into the crook of the elbow. And you're turning to the side, or you could be very slightly to the side. Okay? Imagine I'm there with a hand on your left hand side of your waist, your hip, and I'm holding that. So the hips are still facing the front. You take a nice big inhale again and lengthen as best you can up through the spine. And then with me holding that left side of the waist, you turn away from it. So the ribs, the shoulders, and the head can turn, but I want to keep the hips facing to the front. Now, breathe in and out. Unwind a little with every inhale and twist on the exhale. Are the left toes still pointing up to the ceiling like they were in our staff pose? Have they gone floppy? Okay, so everything stays engaged. Nice tall spine. I don't want you cranking the body round, but if you've done this lots of times and this feels really comfortable, one option is to lift the left arm and take the left elbow outside the right knee. But I don't want to see any of this business going on when we're trying to fight our way around. That's only if your back likes it and you're feeling flexible today. Otherwise, any of those other options for this last breath here. And we're going to use an inhale to unwind. Come all the way to the front, straighten out the legs. Sometimes it's nice just to twist a little bit to the left. So take the back in the opposite twist, and then find Dandasana, our staff pose again. And notice how it feels, okay? It might feel really different in one side of the body to the other. You might feel really lopsided, so we're going to even things up. Start with fingertips on the floor and find that length in the spine and tell yourself you're going to try and keep it there. And then this time the left foot is going to cross over the right. So we got the left foot on the ground, either outside the knee, or if you found that last pose a little bit tight and stiff, keep it on the inside. It's a little bit gentler. And the left hand is going to stay by the hip. The right hand this time is going to lift up on a big inhale. And then you decide how much you turn to this first breath. Maybe the hand lands on the shin. Maybe you wrap it around the leg so that the knee is in the crook of the elbow, the hand rests on the thigh. You'll feel if you're forcing it, you know. Inhale and straighten, lengthen the spine. And then think of that hand on your right hand side this time, down near your hip and the side waist, and gently turn the top of the body away from that right hip. And then unwind a little on the inhale. Get space in between each of the vertebrae, and then turn again. So feel that movement, gentle movement in the spine. Twists are so good for the health of the spine, but they're no good if you're going to crazy with them, if you're going too forceful with them. Gently unwind and then twist again. Use the breath all the time. If you want to try that option of right elbow outside the left knee, you're welcome to, but use it, advisedly. Couple more breaths here. Think about those right toes. Are they still pointing up to the ceiling? Have you got a tall spine? Vertebrae are moving away from each other. And then gently unwind all the way back to center, maybe even going a little bit beyond that. Quite nice to unwind the spine. And then if you're sitting on a block, you might want to keep it to this next bit. We're going to come into a forward fold. So again, it's quite nice to have the hips lifted for this. I'm going to start from our Dandasana pose, our staff pose. Fingertips on the ground, lengthen the spine. And I want you to inhale and lift both arms up. This should lengthen through the ribs, through the side body, and then hinge from the hips a little way forward. Doesn't matter how far. You might feel straight away tension in the back of the legs. I don't want you to feel it in the back. So keep the back straight for a minute and keep it soft. We don't want it straining. And then another inhale, bend your knees and see if you can find more length in the spine. It should be easier with bent knees. And then bow forwards. You'll come a little bit further, perhaps. Hands come down to the mat this time. So they're finding the sides of the legs. And we're going to work like this. Bend the knees, inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, see if you can straighten the legs a little and bow down. Okay, again, this is over time, we get deeper into the pose. Inhale, bend the knees, rise up. Exhale, straighten the legs, bow down. So these could be big movements, or you could make them more and more subtle, more and more small. Use the breath to take you into the pose. Maybe the hands want to hold onto shins, ankles, toes. Maybe they're happier staying on the mat. Okay, still looking for that long spine every time we inhale. Couple more breaths like that, and then on the next exhale, I want you to bow as low as feels good for you and let the head relax, the back round. This is your ultimate forward fold for now. Toes pointing up to the ceiling. You can bend those knees if the thighs and the calves are screaming at you. Bend the knees, it should offer some release. Can you let the head relax and keep that breath going? Deep and smooth. And this is another really nice posture to compare week on week. We're going to do this at the end of the class and just see if our hamstrings can let go a little more. If the back gets a little more flexible. So it doesn't matter if you're sitting up bolt upright or you're laying down on your thighs. This is your forward bend as you find it today. To come out, we're going to use the hands. Walk them towards your hips. Come up slowly. And then to release from that, we're going to ease ourselves onto the floor. Move anything out of the way. Unless you want a blanket to cover you or extra layers on to keep you warm, we're nearly there for relaxation. Ease your back down onto the floor, hug the knees over the chest, and take a rock from side to side. Should feel nice on the lumbar spine. And then you might want to place the hands lightly on the kneecaps and rotate the knees around. Massage that lower back one way and then the other way. Okay, it's worked hard today. The spine is integral to all of our movements, so let's look after it. And then dropping the feet down onto the floor, take them really nice and wide as your mat. Hands can rest on the belly or out to the side. And I want you to drop the knees over to the right, lift them to the center, drop them over to the left. So like windscreen wipers now, you can have them on a really slow setting, or you could go a bit quicker. You could let the knees stay one side for a breath and then swap over, or they might go inhale, exhale, or even quicker than that. Just see what feels nice in your body. Good. And you can decide now, bring them to stillness. You can drop the knees together and stay like this. It's quite supportive for the lower back. This is called constructive rest pose. Or you can stretch the legs out long for Shavasana, our corpse pose. This is a classic yoga relaxation pose. And there's a bit of space between the feet, at least hip width apart. The toes drop out to the side. The palms are face up on your mat with space under the armpits, space between the arms and the ribs. Have a wriggle of shoulders and hips, get comfy, and then allow the eyes to close. And invite everything to soften. Those hard-working muscles, encourage them now to let go and release. Check in with the jaw. Let there be a little bit of space between the teeth, and the tongue should feel soft in the mouth. The skin on the face is relaxed out. The shoulders drop away from the ears. Arms are heavy, and those fingers are gently curled. They're not held in any particular way. Feel that the shoulder blades slide down your back. The hips are wide on the floor. The legs are heavy. And the toes gently relaxed. You can stay lying on the floor. If you prefer, you can roll over to one side and sit for this few minutes of relaxation. If you're more comfortable, you can sit up. Otherwise, let the ground hold you. Take a couple of deep breaths and sigh the exhale out. And we're going to spend a couple of minutes in silent reflection of the practice. Allow yourself to come inwards. Notice any sensations in the body. So that might be physical feelings of muscles being used that aren't usually used. It might be a sensation of warmth or heat in the body. You might notice the heart, the breath slowing down, feeling soothed. And if the mind is busy and keeps flying away and it's difficult to bring it back to the practice, just let those thoughts go. Say they can wait a little while. If it wants something to concentrate on, watch the breath, the inhale and the exhale, natural and free. I'll be right here with you, but I'll let you have some silent time for a couple of minutes now. Allow yourself to notice if that was easy for you or difficult, whether the mind wanted to be busy or allowed you a moment's peace and quiet. Nothing is right or wrong. It varies from day to day, person to person. But start now to deepen your inhale. Wiggle the fingers and toes. And if you're lying on the floor, hug your knees into the chest if that feels nice. Have a little rock. And roll over onto one side, resting there a moment. And when you feel ready, use the hands to gently press yourself up to sitting. And we'll finish the class together in a comfortable seated position, bringing the hands in front of the heart. In gratitude for our practice, let's inhale and take the arms up, saluting the sun one last time. Bring the hands together and down through the center. Take a bow to yourself, the practice that we've shared, the power of Surya Namaskar, our sun salutation. Namaste.